Welcome back to Echo Ridge, to what I've been staring at for about, I don't know, 2 to 3 days of recording? Yeah, it's gotten pretty bad. All the meanwhile, I'm watching our wonderful rockets pick up rocks and bring them back home. For my efforts though, we're getting closer to Mind the Gap. We're at about 650,000 kilos out of 1 million. And that may not sound like a lot. Well, actually, I'm sure it does sound like a lot. But I'm going to break down some math for you. We have about 354,000 kilos remaining that need to be mined from nearby asteroid fields. It takes the rocket about 4 cycles to make it home. It's less than a half a cycle turnaround time before I'm able to get the rocket launched, and then another 4 cycles to get him to the asteroid field. If we take a look at the ESS Larry, you can see that they're extracting resources at 7.5 kilos per second. Well, our large cargo bay can gather up to 27 tons. But that's not exactly how much our drill press will be able to get. In fact, after a quick fast forward, you can see that the large cargo bay holds 20 tons after the drill cone has expended all of its diamond. But since we knew it was 7.5 kilos per second, and we know it was 20 tons that they gathered, we can take the 20 tons and divide it by 7.5 kilos. With that math, we're given a total of 2,666.66, repeating of course, seconds. Well, with 600 seconds in a cycle, the long and short of it is, it takes 4.5 cycles in order for the drill cone to be able to fill up the cargo's rocket bay. So that's 4 cycles there, 4 cycles back, 4.5 cycles to fill up the cargo bay, and a half cycle while at home to refill on fuel, food, and oxygen before they lift off again. That gives us a total of 13 cycles per trip. Well, we know we're getting 20 tons per trip, so if we go back to our 354 total tons required, it means we have at least 17.7 more trips before we'll actually complete the achievement. And you can't complete 17.7, so we're going to have to complete 18 trips. Well, the good news is we've converted the ESS mode to have a drill cone as well, so now we have 3 rockets doing it. Back to our math. That means each rocket has to do 6 trips. Well, I just told you that each trip took 13 cycles at the minimum. That means I have another 78 cycles before that achievement will be done. And that's not even counting all the other little problems that happen in the meantime. Because we're sending these rockets out so much, even though these insulated tiles are made out of obsidian, they eventually melt when they hit above that melting point at 2,726 degrees. The worst thing is though, once that tile melts, then all the rocket exhaust is then able to get down in here and start melting everything we have here, such as our main power spine, the water going back and forth in our colony, not to mention oxygen that's feeding our oxalite refinery. That's right, the rocket exhaust is hot enough to melt thermium. As an example, the ESS Mo has been here long enough, so we will crew it back up, change its destination to one of these awesome asteroid fields that we've been going back and forth to, and then launch it. But this time, I'm going to give you an example of how hot it actually gets. As you can see, this obsidian tile is getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and that's because the steam around it is just getting hotter as well. So the obsidian just keeps absorbing more and more heat. Here's some more thermium wires that have melted, and we just keep rebuilding them. And by the way, when thermium melts, it leaves behind niobium. Kinda cool. So this is what my life has been for quite some time. I let the dupes in, I unequip their suits, I make sure the asteroid fields still have some total mass available. In fact, this time I think we're gonna go to this organic mass field because it's a few cycles closer. Not that we need the slime, algae, or dirt, but anything I can do to shave off a cycle or 2 makes me smile. You also may notice that I put some plastic tiles up here. They occasionally get pounced on by some of the steam, but it's pretty much dissipated by the time it gets up here. But I've done that to try to reduce the amount of radiation warnings I'm getting. Because as some of you may know, when you're just staring at a screen like this all day, you get really tired of the deet deet, deet deet. You know what I'm talking about, even if I can't reproduce the sound with my mouth. But as you can see, I'm at cycle 2166. When you last saw a video in this series, it was almost 100 cycles ago. So yeah, just to underscore how long I've actually been sending these rockets back and forth. To remind you though, we're only 4 achievements away from reaching our goal. One of them, frustratingly, is waiting for a gas grass to mutate. Well, this one was on me, because this whole time that I've been irradiating this gas grass, I had completely forgotten that the gassy moos were eating it before it would actually grow up and have a chance to produce a seed. So now we've put a nice couple of window tiles around it so that the gassy moos can't get to it. By the way, meet Max and Miranda. I have reduced the number of space cows in this stable down to 2 so that they'd be fine eating just the 3 pieces of gas grass that they have access to now. So we already know how we're going to get GMO A-OK and mine the gap. But as many of you may know, the more difficult achievements might be easy living and job suitability. I have a couple of plans for these that we're going to start setting up today. First, job suitability says for 10 cycles in a row, have every duplicant in the colony complete at least 1 chore while wearing an exosuit. And when it means inside the colony, it does not mean your home colony, it means across the star map. And since we have an entire other colony here, I figured it might be easier to bring everybody home to try to accomplish that achievement than it would be to do it on 2 different planetoids. Now over here on Rikazon, we still have a population of 6. Lucky for us though, we have an exit strategy. And it just so happens that we have plenty of rockets sitting around here that can swing by and pick those duplicants up. But it also means we're going to need to expand our barracks just a little bit. It won't be too big of a deal because we have some room right here. So I'm going to start off by bricking this all up, making some new ladders. In fact, just give me a second and I'll show you what I've come up with. There we go. Now we have some nice overflow barracks. This will be perfect. Speaking of which, the Space Uber is ready over here on Rikazon. Now, unfortunately, there are some things that this planetoid requires duplicants for, mainly digging up all the meteors that end up crashing down on the planetoid's surface. Otherwise, there's nothing that would prevent this place from staying fully automated. Everything from the volcanoes erupting, to the auto sweepers throwing the metal into the conveyor loaders, for the metal to go through our giant debris chiller, and then be eventually launched by our interplanetary launcher. Even the power delivery is automated using these natural gas geysers. Natural gas comes in, goes through some wonderful buffer tanks, and then into the generators. So sadly, our metal delivery is going to come to an end. Although considering we have 92 tons of gold, 37 tons of tungsten, 50 tons of cobalt, and even 10 tons of iron, I'm not too worried about it. Oh yeah, we also have 67 tons of steel. And since we've been making all those trips, we also have 180 tons of igneous rock and over 100 tons of both granite and sedimentary rock. But without further ado, it's time to bring everybody home. That means you, Glenn, Andrew Thomas, Jack Dyed, Colonel Sanders, and Brian. Did I forget anybody? I really hope I didn't forget anybody. Ah, yes, Ryan. Come on, Ryan, don't miss the bus. With no dupes left on Rikazon, it means they're all inside the rocket. So without further ado, let's punch it. No. Let's go? Maybe the classic engage. Or how about the newly founded, I would like the rocket to go now. Goodbye, Rikazon. It's been real, it's been good, but I can't say it's been real good. Taking a look at easy living, I've thought of a couple of things. First, we need to unpack what it means by have auto sweepers complete more deliveries to machines than duplicants over 5 cycles. As you can see in this cycle, auto sweepers have made 39 deliveries and duplicants have made 60. The key word in there, I believe, is going to be to machines. So I want to do a quick test because I know I've accomplished this task before, I just don't know what method I used. So what I've done is put a conveyor loader and an auto sweeper sitting right by our infinite storage. And I'm literally just going to have the auto sweeper pick everything up, bring it to the conveyor loader, and then drop it right back down. The problem with this is I don't believe this is going to be considered a delivery because I don't believe the conveyor loader is going to count as a machine. I would use the automatic dispensers to test this theory, except they don't have allow manual use. The conveyor loader does. So because I can make sure that the duplicants won't be doing this task, we can see if this increments it at all. We're also going to disable these 2 automatic dispensers, and then I'm going to select sweep only, all, and then start sweeping everything up. And as you can see, the auto sweeper's picking everything up out of the storage, dropping it into the conveyor loader, where it just falls right back down into the infinite storage. Another way to check this is we just turned across the start of a cycle. The auto sweeper's done 2, the auto sweeper's done 3, but when we go to the achievement, it says the auto sweepers have done 0. So I don't think this is working. There is one method I am sure that would work though, and that's by going to the schedule and putting everybody on vacation. Do I think this is cheating? I don't know. Do you think this is cheating? I don't know that either until you tell me in the comments below. But here's one thing I can tell you. The comments below are gonna think it's cheating. But if you give me a second to explain why I'm justifying it to you now, you might come across my side before you blow up my comments. We have auto sweepers doing deliveries everywhere. In every stable and ranch. Even our kitchen has 5 auto sweepers. We have auto sweepers all over our sauna, and even more auto sweepers down here where we're refining ethanol and some petroleum. Not to mention we have auto sweepers at our payload, and even across the star map, we have auto sweepers doing all sorts of things. So is this method any less authentic than just adding more auto sweepers to do more things? And making our duplicates do less things? I don't know, but I'm sure you're going to let me know in the comments below. Now, occasionally when something happens, I can go into emergency mode and make sure that some of the tasks are still completed while leaving everybody still on vacation. So while we're making headway on that, I wanted to clarify something with our fuzzy map that we did before. Here is the ESS Curly. ESS Curly only has 18 tons in their large cargo bay. And the reason why is because only 90% of this asteroid is made up of solids. Whereas before in our example, we were using the 20-ton total estimate based on this rocky asteroid field that has 100% worth of solid. So when you're trying to accomplish Mind the Gap, try to stay away from these asteroids like this radioactive gas cloud that only has an 18% solid. Unless, of course, you're collecting all the liquids and gases as well. Another thing I wanted to point out is the fact that our colony is self-sustaining, which is another reason why I don't mind putting all the duplicants on vacation. They're still able to eat, they're still able to breathe, and they are maxing on their relaxing. And after a short vacation for our duplicants, don't hate on them, okay, they deserved a vacation too. We have accomplished easy living. Alright dupes, vacation is over. Congratulations. Now the next achievement is quite literally a pain, only because of the word chore. I don't know what the word chore means in the oxygen not included context. I know what an errand is, but it doesn't mean just an errand. Or so we shall see at least. But how are we going to do this? Well, remember when I said we're bringing all the duplicants back? I mean, we're literally bringing all the duplicants back. Yeah, I don't love the fact that we're pausing our Mind the Gap mission, but, well, we not necessarily have to pause it that much. I'm just not sure of whether or not leaving Squishat in this suit, for instance, on a mining mission, and them running to the rocket control station actually counts as a chore. So it's another one of these achievements that you have to play the game a little bit. So we're going to start by doing something that's going to make everybody cringe, and that's going to be getting rid of about half of our nature reserve. Sorry, we have to put suits here. All of the barracks are now only allowed to go in and out through this door. We've turned the permissions on this one off. So theoretically, all I should have to do is put everybody in a suit as soon as they wake up. But if I remember correctly, from doing this in the past, it wasn't quite that simple. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that Clay has kind of fixed this one in the background. So I was in the middle of getting all of our suits installed when I realized the atmosphere doesn't look quite right. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it wasn't quite right. Well, the reason why ended up being with this tank. The water had gotten warm because this geyser had been dormant for so long, and this water was so hot that it warmed everything in here up. You can see this brine's at 63 degrees. So when it was dropping in here, combined with the fact that we were ultra low on water to begin with, because once again, one of those blue moon situations had come, and I had disconnected this water a long time ago because I haven't been wanting the dupes to get in here because it's so hot at 74 degrees that we had a sort of water shortage. It's being sorted out right now, but we're having to feed the colony with 33 degree water until the thermo aqua tuner gets it all cooled down. So give it a few minutes, and in the meantime I think I'm good to send another couple of rocket missions out. It didn't take too long, and now the water's sitting back down at 21 degrees. So I'm going to go back to my second job, and that's staring at the star map. I'll see you in 20-30 cycles, maybe longer. Please send help. Even though the dupes haven't been on Rikazan in quite some time, we're still getting shipments of some wonderful refined metal. Unfortunately, with all the meteors floating around the star map right now, I think that fact is about to come to an end. Unless by some stroke of luck, no meteors hit in and around here. It's not that I'm worried about the interplanetary launcher because this system does its job. It's all the stuff that stays stuck up here that the duplicants had to go up and dig out. Until then, we'll take all the metal shipments Rikazan can send. Alright, I'm done playing around with this gas grass. Unfortunately, Miranda and Max are going to have to leave. Don't worry, they're going to have a great time. In fact, their happiness is probably going to be somewhere about medium rare. See, the deal is, the closer you can get the plant to its maximum radiation, which in the gas grass's case, it's 12,200, the higher the chance that it will mutate a seed. Get away from the gas grass! See, this is why you're becoming a steak. Okay, that was a little bit more depressing than I thought. Mental note, do not attack the gassy moose. It looks very, very sad. So what I'm going to try to do is add in even more radiation. I'm also going to duplicate our efforts over here, because what's better than one gas grass trying to be mutated is two gas grasses trying to be mutated. Okay, so because my life is pain, this one farm tile is preventing enough of the light to where this gas grass will not be able to grow, so I'm going to have to get rid of this one, which is really unfortunate because we had managed to add another couple of hundred rads per cycle to the plant. Aha! I've discovered something else. Right now, these hydroponic tiles are copper ore. If we take a look at the radiation overlay, we can see that the radiation blocking for copper ore is 45%. And I believe the game considers this tile the one that needs to be irradiated. So for as much as we're doing, we're blocking 45% of the radiation. So I set up a few more materials down here to compare. Long story short, the lowest ore that we have as far as blocking goes at 24% is gold amalgam. Ooh, let me try uranium ore too. I stand corrected. Uranium ore has a radiation blocking of 0%. So, time to replace these hydroponic tiles with some uranium hydroponic tiles. This is almost going to double the amount of radiation those plants are receiving. Another great tip I learned from the comments is if you're not going to be using the hydroponic farms, it makes more sense just to get rid of the hydroponic farms and replace them with farm tiles. What I mean by that is, right now, this first hydroponic farm is collecting some of the chlorine, despite the fact that we don't want it to. So I'm going to replace all the Weesboard hydroponic farms with standard farm tiles. And that way, there will be no input for the chlorine to enter into the tile. And then to make this situation even better, we're going to add a wonderful farm station, so that these plants are going to grow twice as fast. So just by making a few changes, the gas grasses are now getting 625 rads per cycle instead of the previous 400 and something. And they're going to be growing twice as fast by attempting to make this room into a greenhouse. Why does it say it's outside of a greenhouse? There's a conflicting building. The grooming station, which I'm assuming it's talking about the milking station. Let's deconstruct it. And whammo blammo, we now have a greenhouse. Give me my mutated seed! Oh, sweet glory! After those small changes, it didn't take long at all. We have a blooming gas grass seed. And blooming just provides better decor. Not too shabby, but more importantly, we just finished GMO A-OK. My goodness, that one was a beast, huh? And by the way, here's Max and Miranda now. Don't worry, they loved their tour of the steak factory. Nothing to see here. Carry on. So I realized my previous plan wasn't going to work as well as I thought it was going to, because at any given time, there's only a couple of dupes sleeping. So I added a few more docks. I'm also going to be going through the shifts and make sure they're as consolidated as they can be, but this is 22 docks. So I need to make sure that 5 people are sleeping at any one time. Once I get all that switched over and the month of Sundays goes by that it's going to take to fill all these suits, I'll give you an update. Alright, so here's a small update for you. The filling of the Atmos suits is going a little bit better now because I've consolidated a lot of our gas pipes. Remember our original system? The oxygen comes out of our spawn, gets cooled, and then goes up. It splits into 3 directions. One to the left, one up the middle, and one to the right. Well, since our liquid oxygen is also backfilling these suits here, we had a lot of extra gas pressure on the far left side. So we have it backing up both the first part of the suits and the second part of the suits. That's right, I split the bank of 22 suits into 2. That way there'd be a much better chance of all the suits staying full as long as possible. And as you can see, we're getting really close. Now, once I do put the Atmosuit checkpoint on here, this checkpoint's not going to matter anymore because the dupe will already be in a suit, so they'll just run right by it. About the only area where this plan could backfire is if the dupe for some reason wanted to take their suit off, put a lead suit on, and then just chill out here for a little while. Well, just to make sure that doesn't happen, they're not allowed to go in there anymore. So there should be no reason for them to take their Atmosuit off. It doesn't matter if they're going to the bathroom or even if they're eating. Which, by the way, I had to add an extra great haul. Some of the dupes ended up, eating on the floor. As another note, I gave each table a wonderful office mug. We still have some office mugs to go, but slowly but steadily. Because these asteroid fields, once you collect their artifacts, all they're going to give you is office mugs. And that's only after they've recharged. So despite the fact that I've probably made 60 trips by now, we haven't quite gotten 60 full artifacts because of this recharge time. I think I am about ready to start. The only bad thing is the dupes in the rockets who are still out in the star map are going to be really disappointed because their Atmosuits are going to run out of air. Now in Whiskey's case, we could actually go refill it because the ESS Mo has a suit dock. But in the case of the Larry and Angry Forest, or the ESS Curly and Squishat, they're going to be out of luck until they get back to the home planetoid. But we are oh so close at over 900,000 kilos mined from the star map. So without further ado, let's put this Atmosuit checkpoint in. It's going to take a full cycle for everybody to come back home and then pass through the checkpoint to put them in the suit. But once they are, the key is going to be making sure that there is no idlers. And since I have, hundreds and hundreds of tons of raw minerals now, I figure we're going to put some drywall in just so they never run out of something to do. But I'm going to wait till everybody is 100% inside their suits. The great thing about this system that you don't have to worry about is we're not going to run out of oxygen inside the Atmosuits. Because the duplicates are going to be spending so much time in their suits, they're not going to be breathing the oxygen from the air. So it's all going to be available to go into the docks. Already one massive oversight, and that's the fact that as they come back through here, they were taking off their suits that they had put on after they left their barracks. So I disabled the Atmosuit checkpoint, and I'm undocking all of these. I also have to disable this one, and disable this one. Hopefully there's no other Atmosuit checkpoints. And then I get to go through here and do this whole fun game again, where we play drop off the Atmosuits. Please, Clay, can we copy and paste these settings too? So far, so good. The only idlers have been inside the rockets, and they're still getting a task at least once per cycle because they have to go drive the rocket. I'm hoping that counts. Don't worry, buddy, you're almost there. Just keep holding your breath. And there we have it. We're about to pass our second cycle in accomplishing job suitability. Now I just got to keep these dupes working. I suppose one of the things I could have them do is, pick up everything from the infinite storage again. I mean, that should count as an errand. In fact, I'll make sure it's being done at a priority of 4, so they still do everything else as well. On top of beautifying the base, of course. There's always one. There's always one, and today, that one is you, Andy. What are you doing up here? You had no reason to come up here. And it happened. Andy cost us about 3 cycles. We've been reset back down to 0. Sad bananas. My previous hypothesis about the oxygen has not so far been correct, and I can't figure out why. I have 3 separate lines all feeding into the suits, and so far this is kind of how they looked, which occasionally causes a dupe to stay stuck in here. As such, we keep getting reset. But don't you worry. Don't you worry. I've got an idea for that too. And if you thought the last idea reeked of cheese, wait till you see this one. In the meantime, we're going to see if 400 tons of dirt made into temperature shift plates will also keep them busy. I don't want to resort to the cheese, but sometimes a nice piece of cheddar is just better. So here's an update for you. we're just gonna get rid of all the suits, and we're gonna go with my extra cheddar method. More on that in a minute, because I've got even better news. That's right, we are only 25,000 kilos away from completing Mind the Gap, which should just take 2 more rockets heading out. And it just so happens that the Larry and the Curly are ready to go. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. As the rockets mine out the asteroids, it continuously updates the tracker for the Mind the Gap. So it's only a matter of moments before we hit that achievement, and you may wonder why I'm so very excited about that achievement considering it's not our last one. Well, because it's the last achievement I need in order to 100% this game. I had previously done an achievement run offline years ago, back before Spaced Out even existed. So when Clay introduced Spaced Out, they also introduced new achievements. So this is the first time that I will have accomplished Mind the Gap, getting back my 100% that I have on Auction Not Included. And there it is at last. Yay! Yeah, I'm done mining from asteroids for quite some time. I'm not even going to let them finish the current mining mission. No. They're coming home right now because, well, we have a trip to go on. With all 3 rockets back, it's now time to serve up the cheddar. Look, I don't want to hear any judgment. This is just how this is going to go down. Everybody get inside the rocket right now. We're going on a field trip. We will change the crew to every single person except for one, and that one is going to be the series VIP, Carol. For those who've been watching the series for quite some time now, you've seen Carol go through the ringer in the interests of advancing this colony. So they don't get a vacation. And then we'll click the crew button. I am going to have to disable the Atmosuit checkpoint because, well, we just don't own that many suits. And as long as I keep an eye on Carol to make sure they don't go into the sauna, we'll be okay. Nope, you're not going over there. You can go back to the bedrooms. No crowding. There's room for everybody. Don't worry. We're still waiting for 2 more duplicants. One of them is the Queen, who apparently cares more about farming than they do about getting in the rocket. Queen, you're going on this vacation whether you want to or not. Okay, finally I had to do a force move on the Queen just to get them inside the rocket. They were too busy tending to the plants. But now all we have left on this planetoid is Carol. Everybody else is going on a vacation to an all-expenses-paid trip to the temporal tear. Oh, you guys are gonna love it, I promise. Thanks for all the hard work. Ta-ta. Some of you have probably guessed why I just did that. Well, it's kind of difficult to make sure 27 duplicants all do a task within a cycle. It's not too difficult to make sure one does. And as soon as everybody enters the temporal tear, well, the entire colony will only be 1 duplicant. Huh? Look, I told you. It's better because it tastes like cheddar. And we'll be able to start doing that in 5.4 cycles when that rocket finally gets through the tear. Since we have a little bit of time to burn before that can all happen, I figured I'd go over some of the colony highlights, some of the things that I really appreciated about this playthrough, and some of the things I wish I would have done better. For instance, the power grid. While the power grid is completely functional, we very often get brownouts depending on what we're working with. And the reason why is because not every heavy watt wire is the conductive type. There were some places where I put standard heavy watt joint plates instead of the heavy watt conductive joint plates, and it just didn't seem worth it to go through the painstaking process of replacing them. So while a good bit of the power grid was upgraded to the 50 kilowatts, there is still some 20 kilowatts hanging around, which means our maximum throughput is 20 kilowatts, unless you want to start overloading the circuit. So that is definitely something I would have changed, and I will probably do differently in the future. I just never thought a colony of this size would have used over 20 kilowatts. So to make up for it, I just made sure that we were either not running the molecular forge or the oxalite refinery at the same time, or just making sure some of the metal refineries weren't all going nuts at the same time as well. Speaking of which, I am very proud of this nuclear sauna. The thermals in it maintained for over 1,000 cycles. We're sitting at around 250 at the dead center, 190 up top, and about 190, 185 down here at the bottom. We ended up using 10 steam turbines and maintained about 20 kilos worth of steam pressure in here. I mention all that because we had 1, 2, 3, and 4 thermal aqua tuners in here, not to mention all sorts of industrial machinery. And it worked out pretty well. I wish I would have had a little bit more space because I would have liked to have had a better debris chiller than just what we used for the oxalite. And the only reason we even decided to chill it is because it was going inside the rockets. And during the final push of the Mine the Gap, I stopped ranching the gassy moves, but I was very happy to finally be ranching gassy moves and playing with some of the brackine. I was very pleased with our sleet wheat and our bristle blossom farms from pretty early on in the playthrough, which gave us access to the wonderful berry sludge that our colony lived off of for a very, very long time. Speaking of which, on the home colony, we ran hatches for the coal, we ran Drecos for the plastic, the reed fiber, and the phosphorite. Even though we had a source of salt water, so we never really needed the poke shells, they were handy in eating all of the polluted dirt, not to mention giving us a lot of lime in the process. We also ran slicksters for the petroleum because you needed the petroleum for a lot of the rare resources in late game materials, such as supercoolant and viscogel. We also ran 2 stables worth of pips, 1 here and 1 here, which gave us all the lumber we'd ever need, plus a very healthy supply of dirt. I really like this geothermal power plant. I thought the simplicity of the build, especially combined with the fact that we put the steam turbines into a power plant, made this design one of my favorites, and it did a pretty good job. You can see we solidified about half of the magma biome. Before you start worrying about the living conditions inside this rocket, remember they're not going to be in here for very long, and they still have 10 tons of oxalite. That's right. The 26 duplicants used 10 tons of oxalite to travel from Tuxedo, and they're now 1 hex away from being at the Temple Tear. So oxygen's not going to be a problem here in a minute. Of course, the rocket did run out of rad pills, so I hope you saved one in your pockets, because it's going to get a little spicy. And here we go. Bye, dupes. Oh, well, that was unexpected. Why can't I send 26 dupes through the Temple Tear? All right, we're going to try this one more time. Enter the Temple Tear. It's big enough to hold 26 dupes. There they go. Have a great vacation. You're going to be fine. And now, just like that, we only have 1 duplicant on the entire star map. Yay! And as long as they do 1 errand every single day in a suit, we should be able to get job suitability. And at the turn of the cycle, here it is. Job suitability. Wonderful. Now, I know a lot of you are hoping that I'm going to continue this series on and keep playing it. Except, this series, well, it broke me. So I'm going to take a quick break from Oxygen Not Included, and we'll start fielding some ideas of what the next colony is going to be about. In the meantime, you'll probably see a couple of different games. There's some one-offs that I wanted to try. But don't worry, Oxygen Not Included is not going anywhere for long. So there you have it. Our max difficulty achievement run is complete. Remember to like this video and leave a comment below with your suggestion on what the next run should be. I hope you enjoyed this video and this series. So until next time, happy gaming, much love, and I'll talk to you soon.